What's up, everybody? Recently, I was given the opportunity to interview Bruno G at Offworld Industries, who happened to work on the Pacific Front update coming to Squad 44. More specifically, Bruno was involved with the development of the Flamethrower being added. And in addition to the interview, you're also going to see a bunch of footage from the update itself. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, leave a like, drop a comment down below. Are you excited for this update and planning to play? Let me know your thoughts, and let's get to it.
I am Bruno Gorostiaga. I am a principal VFX artist at Offworld. I worked on Squad. I worked on Squad 44, Postscriptum, Beyond the Wire, Starship Troopers, and also one of the founders of Offworld. And I also worked in Project Reality, which was one of the precursors of Squad. Some call the precursor of Squad. So yeah, it's been a while, 10 years.
So I'm new to Squad 44. I'm excited for this update because I'm a little bit of a World War II, like, I wouldn't say history buff, but I enjoy that theater, and both the European side, obviously, and the Pacific side. And I feel like you don't get to see the Pacific side in too many games. And it's a very intense side of that war. So it's always interesting to see opportunities to sort of play and I guess to some degree experience something related to that to gain familiarity with that side of things. So what I wanted to start with is more so because, again, I'm new to Squad 44, and I haven't had a chance to play in the playtest. So I wanted to get some background on kind of the effort put into setting this up and going into this theater, because I can imagine this is a pretty massive undertaking. So can you give us like a little bit of background on maybe some challenges for you or the team in kind of building out this world?
Yeah. So when Mercury Arts took over Squad 44, the first task was to clean up the graphics, clean up the tech a bit, optimize it, put the previous chapters, which is, Market Garden, Normandy, Battle of the Bulge, and France 1940. We had to put that in, we have to leave that in a good spot and then pick a new chapter, right? There were many ideas, of course, right? But we had to choose something that will pick like a lot of interest, right? Eastern Front has been done by mods before, and we went for the Pacific. It was gonna be different, right? But that's the thing also. The Pacific was fought in a very different way, in a very different types of like environments, right? So almost like I appreciate. I'm not sure if you've heard it, but the veterans from Europe and from the Pacific didn't kind of understand each other much. Yeah, we at the end of the day we went for the Pacific, which is a huge challenge. But at the end of the day, it's gonna leave us with this other aspect of the war also that is, would you say, it's underrepresented? Like, it's been done before, but not in Milsim much.
Yeah. I was like trying to think about that before. Like, how many times have I played the
Rising
Pacific
Storm,
side?
like from the top of your head, like Rising Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Then
I'm trying to remember if did Medal of Honor go there?
Battlefield. But that's not, I wouldn't call that Milsim though. Yeah, Battlefield is. I would say mods. Maybe I grew up on Forgotten Hope, Forgotten Hope 2 for Battlefield 2. Those were mods that had a lot of this like weird Japanese weapons that weren't really seen in other games and all that stuff, but nothing official, right? And of course, I played Call of Duty War at War, was great, that featured the Pacific. Some of the latest ones were just like a bit. I prefer something more realistic. Do enjoy a Call of Duty I grew up with Call of Duty World War II campaigns, right? Like Medal of Honor, all of that stuff, right? Medal of Honor they did Pacific Assault, but a multiplayer game like in a large scale. So it puts us, I think, in a and especially now it's a huge breather because we're about to release it, right? Like it's a huge undertaking. I'm not sure how much of the map you've seen, but it really feels like like one thing was going from Normandy to like early France, but going from France to insular Japan is something else, right?
Yes.
So
that's completely new assets because architecture and everything
it feels just so different, right? Like so I think personally leaves us in a good spot because now we can take a breather, make this first Battlefield Iwo Jima very good. We're gonna feature Guadalcanal next, and it's, I think, having both Europe and the Pacific, it's and a lot of it. The main thing is it's just massive work this guy's put in.
Yeah.
It's just it's impressive how hard this guy's work. Like
Yeah.
just to make so many, and it's beautiful. The weaponry is looking amazing. Characters are looking really good, and yeah, we did it. Like yeah,
You did. And
now yeah.
speaking of some of that, like you've talked a lot about the undertaking and stuff like that. Can you give like myself and my audience a little bit of an idea of the sort of research that goes into it? I mean, just like what did you guys? I know there's a lot, so if you can give us some concept of the background before you even, before it's even really talked about to us, like what does that research and that sort of project look like for you guys to prepare to make it?
Yeah, we do work with historians. A lot of research. There's also a lot of independent research by ourselves, but it's really just about like we go ham at like what weapons were used, what was used in this particular battle, right? What era, how were the uniforms, what were they looking? We have a bunch of in the team. We have a bunch of like a lot of enthusiasts that do reenacting and all of that, and have more access to uniforms and contacts and different levels of research. Also, we consulted with also a Japanese historian. Sometimes the community helps us by with contacts and all of that. For like the community put us in contact with that Japanese historian. So just like gathering a lot of information and then trying to for the artist, right? And then that goes to the weapon artist, and a lot of it also has to do with the passion. I gotta say, from what I've seen a lot in this particular sprint, let's say, to release the Pacific, is we have a superstar of a weapon and vehicle artist. We have a bunch that are really good, and we were planning for this much, and they came with a lot more versions of like this weapon, but like in this year and this year and this year and this carbine version, and we were like hell yeah, right? So now we can do these things in more nitty gritty, because yeah, we did the research to put the right version of say a Japanese rifle on a particular year, but now we have an even broader like spectrum of like saying like yeah, this particular role used the carbine version, this particular role had a self-defense weapon because stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
So combined with like you combine all that research, that is very like we are very like obsessive about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's not to the point of gameplay detriment, right? And you combine that with amazing artists that are really like into their details, and you get an orchestra, a beautiful orchestra of something that is more or less authentic, right? It is still a game. We have to gamify certain things, like for example the flamethrower. That's what's weird though, the flamethrower, right? Like the flamethrower, if you research on Wikipedia or just the internet, it says 7-second burning time, the primer, right?
Mhm.
And you can use it for 7 seconds burn time, and it reaches like 40 meters.
Mhm.
But then you see an interview with Don Graves on the Sean Ryan podcast that used the M2 flamethrower in the Battle of Iwo Jima. He's like 98, and he was asked about the range, and he says it was 65 feet, so about 20 to 25 meters,
Mhm.
that he could like aim and hit things. It did not fall with gravity much. It wasn't as liquidy as the one in the vehicles that
Mhm.
reached for 100 meters and looked like a hot hose
Right.
of lava, right? This was it was more gassy, right?
Mhm.
So you can look for videos on YouTube of people using an M2 flamethrower in color today in high resolution. Man, this thing goes straight.
Yeah.
You can aim it up, and it like it doesn't fall. It's like a hot rod for like about it goes. Of course, it's like with the buoyancy of fuel, there's no prediction of range, right?
Mhm.
But that's why they say effective meter that you can prove that it's always going to kill is about 25 meters. And in the game, in the game we made it 30 meters, so you have that grace, like and because it's a game, you want to make it a little bit more effective, so it's fun to use. Don Graves said he had 3 second bursts, right? 7. So that's about 15 seconds of burn time, not 7 seconds. So we put it 15 seconds of burn time. So yeah, that's also some research, right? Which one do you pick?
Right. Yeah.
The guy who used it
Yeah.
and who like practiced, and he got his flamethrowing technique to the point where he was like, yeah, I was doing 3 second bursts, no longer than that, and I was counting my bursts, and I had 7. Okay, so you try and use these things, right?
Mhm.
You try and gather this information, and then okay, which one am I gonna use for this game? So of course, when reading Wikipedia and seeing those 7 seconds, and then listening to this guy, I'm gonna go for the longer because I want this needs to be a fun weapon, right? to use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, it's a game still. You still, if you take a round to the tank, you're gonna explode. It's gonna explode. It's gonna kill you. You're an easy target, but you can also clear bunkers very well with it.
Yeah. Very effective.
It's a very good room clearing weapon. As in, like you can hose the thing, like the start of the beam of fire. I made it very thin, very thin, and then it goes like it looks in real life, right? So the first 2 meters are like this hot beam, yellow beam, right? You can squeeze that in a tiny bunker window and like just hold it there and
Yeah.
move it about. You know what I mean? The people inside won't be happy, the players inside, because they will be at the minimum they'll be suppressed, damaged a bit, they will be blind. Combine that with grenades and you might clear the bunker very quick.
You talked a bit about some of the research you've done. When did you find out you're going to be working on the flamethrower? And like, what does that timeline look like from, okay, this is what we're doing, whether that's, okay, we're going to go to Iwo Jima, this is the setup, to now? Like, how long is that time frame?
Well, the flamethrower in particular, flamethrower is like, I can tell you, like, the Mercury Arts always wanted it.
Okay.
Like from day one, Cats, Michael, he wanted it. He was like, flamethrower, can we make it happen? Can we make it happen? We already made a flamethrower for Beyond the Wire. So we used that tech. We finessed it because it's old tech, and it's more reliable now. I made an updated visual of the flamethrower. It's more performant than the one in Beyond the Wire. One day it was just there in the editor, and it was like ready to go. We had good tech support from Offerville. We had a programmer who came and helped us setting it up, and he was super fast. Like in a weekend it was done. Of course we're gonna put it in. It was in this chapter, right? So there where you sit and you okay, gameplay wise, how we gonna make this? And of course that's an ongoing process. So we're gonna release it and we're gonna see how it plays. A lot of it is gonna be like those eye in the sky videos that they do. Yeah, that's very useful to like kind of see how it plays gameplay wise, and then we're gonna finesse it from there. And we're gonna also add other features like burning players burning and all of that stuff. And we might not have that just at release, but we're gonna have that soon. We're working on that too. So yeah, both visually and gameplay wise, we are gonna be improving it.
Okay.
But at least I'm very happy that the first milestone of having it in there is we did it. Like it's there.
Yeah, I got to take a look at it, just kind of checking out Iwo Jima, the map, and I kept running behind it, so I was getting burned, and just kind of messing with it. And it's impressive. The lighting is also cool too, especially when you're underground in some of the tunnels, and how you can see some of the lighting reflect off the walls, which is an immersive experience. Go ahead.
Yeah, in this playtest, the flamethrower was visually maybe correct, but gameplay wise it had a lot of problems to damage people, and it was also bouncing off thin. We had a problem where the damage sphere was doing the collision, right? So if you wanted a wider damage sphere so it can damage more, that meant that the damage was also colliding, and if you wanted to shoot it in a trench, it will like kind of like get stuck in. You'll see the visual effect of it going through the trench, but so that's finessed already. I was working on that personally, and I got it to the point where it's like you can, like I said, you can squeeze this thing in like a tiny bunker window of like those those tiny bunker windows that Japanese have. Yeah. They're like 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters of window, and you can squeeze it. I made sure that you could like, because you make it effective, right? Like and we have a separate damage volume. Imagine this thing gameplay wise, it looks like a lasso of ever-growing spheres of damage. Inside of that is the effect encompassed. So you don't see that in game, the sort of those spheres, but now with all of that set up, so it overlaps players. So if you're inside that sphere, you're gonna be burned, right? So not only that, but it bounces off walls and it kind of sticks around, and it's kind of
Yeah.
nasty. Like
Well,
uh,
it's interesting because I mean we think typically bullets are one thing, but this in the way that it has volume to it,
mm,
and it's a stream of something, it reacts. I think it's going to be interesting for
yeah,
players to get their hands on because it is a very different
yeah, yeah,
tool.
yeah. I'm keen to see that.
Yeah.
I first hopefully like my job is to make sure that it's visually fun to use it.
Yeah.
Like and then hopefully it's a weapon that also people use effectively, and it's like a good weapon to use in the game in certain scenarios. I would
Yeah.
like to see the combination of those. So it looks awesome, but also like it in certain scenarios it can be very deadly. And,
Yeah.
and yeah.
And what is like you kind of tapped on it already, but the balancing of that. Obviously, you got to let it play out and you got to make those adjustments
Mhm.
later, but how do you go about planning to make it initially at least somewhat balanced? Because you've already talked about how long you can use the tool, but what are the trade-offs when you are using the tool that you have to, kind of keep in mind that like, okay, I have this strength, but the weakness is.
The biggest weakness is you're a duck to anyone that has a rifle that
Mhm.
is 100 meters from you. You're a massive dude with a backpack that if you hit it goes on fireworks and kills his teams too. Right? You only effective if you're at range, but if you are at range, you are deadly.
Yeah.
Same as the guy that has the shotgun. It needs to be good at the range that is meant to be good at.
Yeah.
Other than that, because imagine you gonna pick the flamethrower when you disembark on the beaches first, and like you're like trying to get on that hill,
Right.
you're like you're silhouetted. Sure, you a lot of people are going to just get your 45 and get on a vehicle and try and get to the trenches and get out of dodge, and only after your flamethrower is going to be deadly. But from Suribachi, the Japanese are going to see your silhouette walking in the beach with a massive backpack, and they're going to take pop shots at you.
Mm-hmm.
And good luck, because that happens already. You're in your main base and you're like pop shot, pop shot. Of course, they're shooting from Suribachi. No, it's not precise rifle fire, but
Right.
it's deadly.
Yeah. I think that's going to it'll be neat to see how people play that kit, because like to your
Yeah.
point, there's an area where it's effective, but it alters your gameplay. Like if you pick a marksman, you have to play a certain way to be effective. And this is a very different kit because it's like, you need to be in submachine gun range, maybe to like really do something. But then you have, again, that stream of fire coming out of your rifle.
Yeah, it's a combined arms weapon, I think.
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe you can pull heroics with your 45 and you climb a hill and you like do a Ramirez.
Yeah.
You like clear a bunker by yourself. But I think it's gonna be combined arms. Have a machine gunner with you. Have a
Yeah.
a Browning guy with you.
Well, guys need to help you get to the trench. I mean, they should.
Yeah. And then keep that guy on the back, the flamethrower
Mhm.
guy on the back, right? And then okay, when you reach the bunker, like hey, call him back. I would do that in the tunnels. Oh, in
Yeah.
the tunnels is that's when you want to use the flamethrower.
Yeah. Just in my
Yeah.
limited, but just by myself, just kind of running around with it, it's going to absolutely
Yeah.
demolish people that are inside those tunnels.
Yeah. But again, you may be holding that fire, right? But
Mhm.
if a Japanese is like, screw it, I'm dying, but I'm taking you with me. He's firing his rifle through it, and he hits you, die.
Yeah.
You're not Juggernaut, you die. You
Yeah.
have no body armor.
Mhm.
The only thing you have as armor, which it did in real life, the M2 flamethrower had an armor plate in between the two tanks to protect the operator's back. But in the game, if you get hit from the back, you explode. If you get
Mhm.
hit from the front, you die. So that's I want to see how that plays, right?
Yeah.
Before calling it nerfed, or I don't know. Like I'm not 100% about it yet. I have to see it.
And with obviously you've had a chance to see some of the playtesting going on and some of the feedback, I guess, from the community or what you've gathered for feedback. What do you think players should be most excited about with this update in terms of not just the flamethrower, but generally? Like what are you excited to see players really grasp onto and see how it affects gameplay?
Oh, there's many things. It's more of a combination of things, an
Mhm.
orchestra of things that I want to see. I want to see I want to see if the Japanese are effective at banzai charges.
Mhm.
They do have more deadly melee weapons. I want to see how the Marines use the flamethrower. I want to see how the Marines use the shotgun. I want to see how tanks fare in this type of like kind of like terrible land for a tank, but also you're they don't have tanks to fight you. Well, they do have, but their tanks are kind of they're underarmed compared to a Sherman, and they under armored compared to a Sherman. But they can still ambush you. They can still build very mean anti-tank guns. I want to see how the Japanese build defenses on Suribachi. Can they commit if the Japanese commits to defend Suribachi, they can make it a pain to take. Like I remember one match we were playing tanks and we couldn't get off the beach. Well, we could, but we couldn't approach Suribachi because they had about 3 anti-tank guns set there. And sure, you see the muzzle flashes from the tank, boom, boom, firing, but they were very entrenched, and they kept on reinforcing them, and we kept on. The thing with we felt so powerful in that Sherman, man. But one round to the engine and you're immobilized, it's horrible.
Yeah.
You're not so powerful anymore. Suddenly you're being swarmed by smoke grenades, and then they chuck like magnetic mines, like satchels on top of you, and you can't get out. You get out and they pop done.
Yeah.
So it interesting playing tanks in that. I was worried about this. I thought tanks was just gonna steamroll the Japanese.
Yeah,
it's hard. It's hard.
Well, that's going to be really interesting. I mean, I got to experience at least the kind of rolling out as Marine on the landing ships to the beach, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be intense for a team to deal with.
Also,
like
the field guns, right? Have you seen the big Japanese field guns?
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. I completely forgot about that when I was playing this weekend. I was like, how do we think of that? And I'm like, dude, let's just go and really defend one of these cannon areas. And we defend like one round just knocks a Sherman because it's like 100 and I don't know 30 millimeter. It's 120 millimeter or something like that.
Yeah,
massive gun, like a coastal gun, right?
Right.
They got hit by those. Like some of the land in real life, like some of the LCTs got hit by them.
I think you guys even have animations for like some of them exploding on the way out, right?
Oh yeah. They get that happened.
And there's sort of artillery hitting the beach from you would guess the battleships off the coast. And
it is true that the Japanese opened fire late because they Kuribayashi wanted the Marines to consolidate on the beach and then open fire. Sure, that happened, but after that they started shelling the ships like crazy too, and they got pretty good hits too.
Yeah.
So that's why they explode.
Well, Bruno, I appreciate the time and the dive into this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cool.
That was awesome. So that concludes the interview portion of the video. I wanted to talk about some of my initial thoughts from taking a look at the Pacific Front for Squad 44. But first, big shout out to Bruno and the team at OWI for giving me the opportunity to do this interview. It was really kind of an interesting way of looking at the development of this update. And that is largely what I intended to focus on. I wanted to talk a little bit about the development since I haven't been able to play it as much and see sort of from Bruno's perspective what he's excited about, what he did for research, what the team also did for research, and some of the elements that went into creating this entire new theater for the game. And as for my impressions, well, if we go back, I played Squad 44 when it was post-scriptum, just very briefly, and then I've played it a little bit in the last year or so. And it's really cool to see the game get further development. When it comes to the Pacific Front, that's again a theater that isn't always explored as much as the Western Front. And this side of the war presents its own set of challenges. I mean, just getting off the landing craft, the door opening, and just seeing a wide open beach with no cover is a little intimidating. Now, the environment itself is impressive. There's several almost different biomes included with Iwo Jima, including the beach, the mountain, the airfield, and then all the sort of areas in between where there's mixed buildings, bunkers, some burned land, and then some fertile land. Not to mention the whole place feels riddled with bunkers, trenches, and other fortifications that make up the entirety of the map. It's a very interesting piece of terrain to have to figure out. Depending on which way the map is going based on the game mode, you're going to have a different set of challenges. You could be in the airfield where it's much more flat and there's maybe a little less cover in various areas, or you're going into the tunnels of the mountain. And as Bruno mentioned, this side of the war is significantly different from the western side, and I think the terrain aspect of this is going to be something that players will have to adjust to. Outside of the beaches of Normandy, this is a less urban environment, obviously, from what you've seen. It just sort of feels like you're consistently in a large open field with very little cover, with trenches and things scattered about. So it creates an environment where I think mechanized infantry and a bunch of teamwork are really going to be helpful for the Marines. That can help you at least get to trenches or maybe some tunnels, which is a completely different environment you'll have to adjust to. Because that's an environment where it feels a little bit more uneasy because you don't know what's around every turn, and it almost feels a little claustrophobic after a while. Now, I haven't had a ton of gameplay experience live with all the weaponry and the vehicles, but I'm excited to see how those translate into victories for either side. But I do want to say that I think this is a pretty impressive start to the Pacific side of the war for Squad 44 and OWI. And another shout out to them for giving me the opportunity to do the interview. This was pretty cool and an interesting thing to discuss. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope to see some of you soon on the beaches of Iwo Jima playing some Squad 44 on the Pacific Front. And with that, be sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a like, drop a comment down below with your thoughts, and I'll see you next time.